Hello there. You're listening to The Deal with D and J. I'm your co-host, Jacob Pearl. Alongside me is the wonderful, swagalicious. Uh,
Too
yeah, that's
cool
all
for
I got. I
school.
only got two. I
Baby.
only ever come up with two. I need to come up with more.
Too cool for school.
DJ McCatherine, the other co-host on the other side. DJ, how are we doing today?
Oh, we're doing good. A little under the weather. Would be great otherwise, but if you hear me slurping on some chicken soup over here, apologies in advance. Just trying to beat it, but we need to pump out this content. Got a lot of football to talk today. We got a wonderful conference that's just a war zone.
For those watching on the YouTube, I got brand new Zach Bryan concert tee here. Absolute went and saw him last night in Philly, night two of Philly. Unreal concert, DJ. Unreal concert. I mean,
That's what you were saying.
the Lumineers came out sang Spotless. Unreal. Then he brought out Bruce Springsteen, sang
Woo!
Atlantic City, and then Sandpaper. Finishes the concert. Absolute vibe. Everyone's partying. Then he goes away for a couple minutes, comes back for revival, and it's the Lumineers come back for revival. Bruce Springsteen comes out for revival. And Shane freaking Gillis comes out for revival.
Shane
Unbelievable.
Gillis.
He's a Philly guy. He's from Philly.
I mean, I don't mind
And
having
then
Philly
I
guys
kid
out
you
there.
not, I'll clip the DJ. I kid you not. He's Zach Bryan's doing this. He's like, this is the last one we got. And he's introducing Bruce. And then there's fireworks going off on top of the stadium. Like, and then Bruce hits an unreal guitar. So it was an out of body experience for about 12 minutes. You
Wow.
didn't care about anything in the world. It was pure joy, pure life. It was unbelievable. What wouldn't I do? What wouldn't I give to be back in that exact moment for the last 10 minutes of that concert? Unreal. If you listen, if you have, just buy the ticket. Don't, if you're think, just buy it. I promise you it's worth it. It's always worth the price of admission, especially for, um, I did.
That sounds amazing. Shoot. Is it better
DJ,
than Luke Combs?
yes.
Oh,
This concert, this live, this one I saw, yes. Prior, no. Because the last time I saw Zach Bryan, he like on the second night, he just announced his breakup with the girl he was with in Philly. And
mm,
then like he came out 45 minutes late. He was like messed up the words to like three or four songs. Like he didn't really care. This
right.
one he knew the significance of playing in Philadelphia this go around, and I think he knew what he did last time, and he gave everybody arguably the best show of the entire tour. It was
Really.
unreal. I think it's one of the things that it's like, where were you for this concert? It was unreal, unreal. I mean, obviously Boston got Dave Portnoy, which is cool, but like we got Bruce in the Lumineers, like that's sick to me. So.
Sounds sick.
Um, it was unreal. It was really good. But yeah, I will say this Zach Bryan concert I went to last night definitely better than Luke Combs. But Luke has more.
Definitely.
But Luke has a lot more like bangers, whereas Zach has a little bit more lulls, which is on purpose. You know, it's a long concert. You want to give people a chance to, Whereas with Luke, it's like goes, banger, banger, banger. Obviously, he has his little lull with like Fast Car and, Forever After All. But this Zach Bryan concert, the energy was the biggest difference. Like Luke Combs, like everyone's having a great time. At Zach Bryan, it felt like there was no worries in the world for
Really.
about 2 hours. And that's because there's a moment too where it's like Luke knows and he has fun, but like Luke had to grind his way, right? He was a grinder. He started out playing like little Okie bars and little, hole in the walls in Nashville and, in Boone. Like Zach just like came out of nowhere. Like, and he just
Right.
pumped out music and he's stratosphere. There was a moment in the concert where he's singing Pink Skies and everybody has like the light on their phone. And you could just see he's smiling when the song's happening, and he's just like he appreciates the whole moment, and he
Yeah.
lets you know that like right away, and he's so genuine, makes you feel like you're like you don't have to worry about anything else for about 2 hours. So I will say Zach Bryan was better than the Luke Combs concert I went to, because last night and the last 15 minutes of it was like I can't even describe how it felt. It was unreal.
Well, that sounds awesome. I see here he's got a concert in 6 days in Tampa.
You ain't gonna afford it, buddy. Tickets there are like $500.
Did you already look?
No, I Philly was selling. I could have sold my tickets and made probably like $1,200 if I wanted to, if I really need the money.
Right.
But
$1,200. Wait a
I
minute.
had four tickets. I had four
Oh,
tickets.
gotcha.
I sell four tickets at $400 a piece. Well,
Mm.
that's 16. I was thinking 300 a piece, but people were trying to do everything in their power to get into this concert.
Yeah, no, they're going lowest is 133, but that's for like
Ooh.
behind the stage
Ooh.
ish area.
You need to see the stage setup. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That is for sure. Well, DJ, enough concert talk. Shall we talk about best conference in football where it just means more?
Hold on, hold on. I think we got to give a shout out real quick to our mascot, our unofficial mascot,
Unofficial mascot unveil, Weston.
Weston. Weston.
Wesson. Wesson. I forget it's Wesson.
You put a T in there, buddy. It's okay.
Should be have a T in it. Anyways,
Smith and Wesson,
I know it's Smith and Wesson.
not Smith and Weston.
So when you get a second dog, is his name going to be Smith or her name's going to be Smith?
Maybe.
Maybe, who knows? Anyways, let's talk about where it means more. Down in the South, the
Ish.
SEC. Let's talk about it. They got two new teams in there. The
Hmm.
Oklahoma Sooners and the Texas Longhorns have joined the SEC. Let's see if they're ready to play with the big dogs. Obviously, we'll touch on that again. DJ, talk to me a little bit about what stands out to you going into the 2024 SEC season.
Yeah, Jacob. I think what sticks out to me the most is going to be the schedule that these teams in the SEC play. They're going to have to collide with each other at some point, right? And a majority of these teams in the SEC are. It is a very. I would like to say it's a top-heavy conference, but with Texas and Oklahoma coming in, I mean, you could see half of the SEC ranked in the top 25, right? Alabama's going to be ranked. Georgia's going to be ranked. Texas is going to be ranked. Tennessee's going to be ranked. Oklahoma's ranked. Ole Miss is ranked. Tennessee is going to be ranked. I don't know if I said Tennessee already, but like that's 7 teams, right? And then you have Missouri is ranked. That's 8 teams. That is half of the SEC. And these teams are going to collide at some point, right? So you're going to see these teams unfortunately crumble to the demise of their own power conference. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, this could be their demise when trying to get that possibly 4 or 5 spot. And keep in mind, I say that with the ACC having a lighter schedule, right? And I don't know why the other one is slipping my mind right now because Big 12. Big 12 is going to have a lighter schedule. So the teams at the top have an opportunity to really be 10-2, 11-1 and take that fourth spot possibly, right? If an SEC team doesn't go that 11-1, 12-0 like Georgia has done the last few years or Alabama has done. And could have them slip out of that 4 spot, that bye. Do I think it's possible? Do I think that's going to be the reality? No, but the schedule for many of these teams is going to be daunting, and I think that's the number one thing that sticks out to me thus far.
Yeah, I think if I had to kind of characterize it in one word, it's going to be juggernaut for every team. I feel like nobody really has it safe, right? Because there's always like if you're going because in the SEC, like the goal is basically to go undefeated every
Right.
year. Obviously, I think every team wants to do that, as cliche as it sounds. But it's also just like if you're Georgia, you can't really afford two. You can afford two losses. I think the SEC, having um, as many teams and as powerful as the teams are, and now we have 12 teams in the CFP. Like teams are going to get a lot of grace. There's not a whole lot more emphasis on winning the conference championship anymore, but it's more so like you have to circle like 3 or 4 games on your calendar and be like, we can. These are can't lose. These are like must wins, must
Right.
wins, and then your other opponents are can't lose, right?
Mhm.
So it's like you got to kind of characterize of like where's that strength for you for like Missouri. Like for them, a must win is at A&M. Like let's go ahead and let's jump into, a surprise team to everybody last year, which was the Mizzou Tigers,
Right.
right? They were picked to finish last, second to last, not to do so hot, and they finished the third team in the SEC, right?
Hmm.
And they were knocking on the door, right? They went to the Cotton Bowl last year with Brady Cook, Cody Schrader, Luthen Burton, right? And also Theo Weiss. That's also unbelievable tandem there with Coach Drink. And he took down Ohio State. Now, granted, it was the backup quarterback at Ohio State, and Ohio State was, a little beat up, but still, that's still a huge win for the program,
Oh,
right?
it's a massive win for the
It's a
program.
massive
And
win for the program. And you're looking at Missouri, currently a coach's number 11 poll, right? And you're looking at the schedule here, DJ, and obviously we're not going to go into every team schedule, but like I was saying with the like in the must wins, like A&M to me, you got to go to A&M and you got to win there. You gain a lot of respect when you win at Kyle Field, right? And then a can't lose is like South Carolina's a can't lose. Auburn's a can't lose, right? Because like with a must win, if you lose the must win, you're not nearly as punished as a can't lose. If that is making sense to the dealers out there, right?
yeah.
Because if I have to win this game to get into the CFP and make my chances better, that's a game you need to win. Opposed to a can't lose is something where if you lose to this team, you can count your days over, right?
Um. Yeah.
If that's making sense. Right? So
Yeah.
like every team's got 3 or 4. Like I got A&M, at Alabama, and Oklahoma. And if you win 2 out of 3 of those, you're locking yourself into the CFP.
I I think. Oh. I don't know. Should I get into bold predictions this early?
No, we
Um.
can say let's save them. Let's save them for when we kind of wrap everything up here.
All right. I'm just saying
As long as you remember it.
Missouri's schedule for
It's
being
favorable.
in the
It's very, very favorable. I mean, you got like you kick off the season with with 3 teams that you should easily take care of business, 4 teams you should take care of business with, right? You get A&M, right? And then you have to go to UMass, which is crazy, by the way, in case like even I work at UMass and I still think it's crazy Mizzou's coming to us, right? It's not often you hear an SEC team coming to an independent. It's normally the other way around, right? And then you have I think they're facing Auburn afterwards. Then you have to go to Bama. You get Oklahoma at home, to South Carolina, to Mississippi State, and then you get Arkansas at home. Again, it's right there. If they win those 3 games and then take care of business, I mean, going undefeated is amazing, but obviously let's take it for what it is. You're going to lose one of the 2 road games, and then you cannot lose to Oklahoma at home. You're looking at 10-2 at the end of the year. That's pretty good to get yourself into the CFP, given your strength of schedule may not give you any favors if you lose to an Auburn, unless any of these teams come out of nowhere, right? And they're ranked. Then it's like we'll talk about that, but like those for me are like each team has a must win. So that's kind of like Missouri. I think 10-2 is the goal. Obviously 11-1 is like perfection, right? But I think they sneak into the CFP. I don't like I want them to host a home game obviously, but I don't think that's in the cards for them given the schedule and their other SEC opponents that are going to be probably in the same realm with them.
right?
But I think Brady Cook is going to still take this team to another level. I think the wide receiver core at Missouri is one of the best wide receivers cores this team has had since like Macklin and that gang with Daniels back in the day. Defensively, they're much better than they were last year. Offensive line is key for us, and they got a ton of O-line stars in the transfer portal. Say what you want about Coach Drinkwitz, and I know you think he's a nerd, but he can recruit.
Yeah,
Can
I don't know how
recruit.
you get people out there to. Is it Columbia? Columbia?
Columbia.
I don't know how you get people out there. What's attractive out there, Jacob? You've been
It's
out
actually
there.
not that bad. It's a small town, obviously, but it's not in the same sense of like where I live. Like it's
Mm,
only like in like an hour and a half, 2 hours from St. Louis. I mean, obviously you have to drive. It's the Midwest, so you'd have to drive through like farm fields and stuff like that. But the city itself is actually like really built up around the university. So there's like you can come to Columbia and like you can do stuff for a full weekend opposed to like it's just a drive-through town.
mm,
The campus and the town and everything, it's a great community. And the thing about Missouri too that I think attracts a lot of, in-state kids and out of state is just the brand. The brand of Mizzou is a whole state. We own the state of Missouri. And if you're an in-state kid, you can start collecting NIL in high school if you
right.
commit to Mizzou. So like,
Wow.
yeah, that's my little. I told you I had to talk about my Tigers. Got to talk about Mizzou this year. I think this year is really really exciting for us.
No, we'll have a discussion about Missouri later. Quick side note: Are we going off the coaches poll for
Yes,
this, the
that's
preseason coaches poll?
the only one I can see on ESPN.
Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure while I was counting these teams and things like that because they had Iowa at 25, and I was like, are we gonna respect this list with Iowa on it at the moment? But I guess we are. So, other teams with like daunting schedules, right? Like we opened up the show about. And we're, so
Speaking of like, if we're going to talk about daunting, let's talk about the toughest schedule in the country.
all right then, just take my line, dag nabbit,
Well, you
kids
stuttered.
out there.
You stuttered, and I finished.
I studied.
No, I
Yes, I
said
studied
stuttered.
for
I said
this line.
stuttered.
I studied for that line, and you just took it from me. The
It,
Florida Gators,
it was never your
dadgummit,
line. It was
with
never your
the
line.
hardest schedule in college football this year. And I, where to start? I've seen videos of this program. I'm not really convinced, right? Their team does a really good job at putting stuff out there. I think the team is actually coming together and they're bonding. I am just not convinced of the coaching ability of Billy Napier. And this year, my God, it will be his reaping. It will, because this
They're,
schedule, Jacob, is,
they're playing every major Florida team besides USF. Like,
and that's not even a major football team.
we're looking like Florida's biggest thing is that they always ran away from the in-state rivalries, and now they were like, screw it, like we're gonna go with it now. You got to open up against Miami. I think it's at Miami,
No,
right?
it's not Florida.
No, it's at Florida. My bad. I,
Unless they're,
I don't think
yeah,
it's neutral site.
no, yeah, because it was a couple years ago, but it does not. It's not this time.
So like Miami comes to the swamp, right? Like you're gonna take care of Sanford. A&M comes to your place. Mississippi State, you got to go the road. UCF comes to your place, right? And this is the stretch that I think is the most like this is the biggest gauntlet I've ever seen. Is this
Hmm.
these next dude? It's the next 7 games. You got to
And
go
you
to.
can almost throw UCF in there. I mean,
You
UCF
can
won the last bout between the two.
honestly, DJ. If we're being honest, right here,
You started Texas A&M.
you start at A&M because like
You got to
Miami,
travel to Mississippi State.
like so we're looking at it right here, and it's like after UCF, you got to go to Tennessee, home against Kentucky, home. I mean, in Jacksonville against Georgia, to Texas, home against LSU, home against Ole Miss, and then you got to go to Tallahassee. Oh my God. That is just a nightmare of a schedule. If I'm Billy Napier, that schedule does not give me the best job security in the world.
Nope.
And it's
Um,
now granted, you're going to have two toss-up games. You're going to have Kentucky, that's a toss-up game. You're going to have Tennessee, that's a toss-up game. And like A&M is going to be a toss-up game, right? And with Florida, with Billy Napier, it's you have another year of Graham Mertz. You did lose ETN to the portal, but how can you replenish it? And everybody's always said, like, Saban assistants always are good, and Napier's one of them. And it's just like we need to see it now. The Magic, you don't have time. Like if he goes 6-6 with this schedule, I'll tell you right now, I give him another year. If he goes six, if he makes a bowl against this schedule, I'll tell you what, I give you a little bit of like a hey man, 6-6 in this climate with this schedule, that's pretty good. Because you're looking we genuinely, you could potentially on the wrong side of the ball, you're looking at 3-9, potentially. If the team is like, if things go south, you're looking at a 3-9 season with your wins being Samford, UCF, and Mississippi State.
yeah. I really think going in depth on the Gators. I mean, Billy Napier is on the hot seat. I think his saving grace at the moment could be DJ Lagway. He was
Yeah.
recruited so early. The fan base is so for him. And I mean, if the team is as bad as it seems, or like the potential for them to be, if the team is as bad as they could be, he's going to get a chance to play, right? I think, unless they're just getting pounded and the offense is still running. Um, but you could have a chance to see DJ Lagway. But even if they don't, DJ Lagway, I don't see them changing a whole coaching scheme for the quarterback that they've been waiting for since Tim Tebow. Right? This is a kid 3 years in the making that they followed, they've recruited, they have spoken so highly of. Um, and right now I think it's on a nice simmer. Right there because
What's
they don't want to lose him. I mean,
what
Florida
what
it has been reluctant to pay people, right? We saw
Yeah.
that situation with another quarterback. I can't remember his name.
He's at Arizona State now though.
Right. Dylan
Yeah. Yeah.
Rashada. Um, it you can't have problems like that and expect people to just flow your way. But this kid came regardless of the situation. Florida hasn't been to a bowl game since 2020. Yes, 2021. They've lost to UCF. But they haven't been above 500 since the 2020 season. So I think the recruiting, and they pick up some recruits here and there. They pick up a lot of people leaving other programs, so they do pretty well in the portal. And I think that's just a high note. But Jacob, this schedule, man, brutal, brutal. I mean,
What
I
game
I could
what game what game do you think Florida fans, if you were to lose it, will call for his head? Because like what was it? Dan Mullen, it was the loss to Mizzou that ended his tenure. And before that one was I think, Muschamp before Mullins.
um see, the problem with this schedule is I don't see any one game that stands out and is like, if you lose this, you're done.
I
I
do.
think that's.
I do.
I mean, you could say any of them. You could say
I think
UC.
I think if you lose to Kentucky at home, they're going to want him gone. You don't lose to Kentucky.
It they have though. They have like
Yeah,
two in
but
the
the
last three
expectation the
years,
expectation is you don't lose to Kentucky because you
and you
beat
don't
them.
lose to Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee hadn't beaten Florida.
But you beat
Beaten
Tennessee last year.
Right. They've only beat them twice since 2003, was it? 2016 and then last year? I mean, the
Listen,
whole
man,
tradition of Florida winning these rivalry games is gone, right? Florida can lose to Kentucky. It is the record before getting to a certain point that matters. I think the most important game on their schedule, Jacob, is the first one. I think Miami sets the tone for the whole season. I think you beat Miami at home, an old rivalry, maybe not restored, but they're going to have to play them again, right? They beat Samford. I think there's a good chance they can beat A&M. I think there's a good chance they can beat Mississippi State. It'll be harder away. I think there's a good chance they can beat UCF, and there's probably one more game, Tennessee or Kentucky. So I'm just saying it's a tempo. It's a tempo thing. You get on a get off on the right foot. You have 3 straight games at home. Maybe you lose to Mississippi State or Texas A&M, but then you got UCF at home again. It's just these. Bless you. Thank you. um, it's a tempo thing for me, and it fires me up. So, um,
Let's go ahead and let's switch gears here and let's talk about the two best teams in the SEC for the last 5 years, probably,
all
which
right,
has
all
been
right.
Georgia and Alabama. Alabama exiting the Nick Saban era. Big
Mm-hmm.
storyline for them.
Yep.
Bring in Kalen DeBoer, who was formerly at Washington, played in the national title game. And this guy's got the toughest shoes on earth to fill,
Mm-hmm.
which is Nick Saban's. And I think the fan base is going to give him a little bit of grace. But if he, for him, it's you got to win in year 2 or 3 for us to like not send you to the axe, right?
Yep.
And I
Yep.
think Alabama's schedule, is not exactly the toughest thing in the world. They have some games where they're gonna struggle and they're gonna, go up against it. But you bring back Jalen Milroe at quarterback, who's a Heisman favorite. I mean, the schedule is very, very favorable and very well spaced. I mean, you have Western Kentucky, USF at Wisconsin, depending on how Wisconsin is, could be a tough one if the environment's up and rowdy, up in
Mm-hmm.
Madison, right? You obviously have the big matchup against Georgia at the end of September. But then you get some nice little, you get South Carolina, you get Vanderbilt, you got to go to Tennessee, which gives them trouble, right? Then they get Mizzou and LSU. So those three games right there are going to be really, really pivotal for Alabama. Obviously, you get Mercer, nice, easy little snack, right? Then you got to go to Norman, and then you get Auburn at home. I mean, you have the schedule warrants breathing room, which I think is huge for this minus those 3 weeks of like Tennessee, Mizzou, and LSU. Like the schedule allows it to breathe, right? So while on paper it sounds like it's going to be tough, it's like Wisconsin could be nothing. Luke Fickle might not have that program ready for a game like this, and Wisconsin gets steamrolled in the first 3 drives and the game's over, right? So like when I view it like that, I think Alabama obviously has to really, Georgia's going to be the biggest game of the year, obviously, right? And then it's you have those 3 weeks and you got to capitalize on those 3 weeks. And Alabama in years previously go 3-0 in those weeks. What does Kalen DeBoer do? Jalen Milroe, what's his development like? Right?
Right.
Kalen DeBoer really developed Michael Penix. So can Jalen Milroe take that next step? We know what the running backs and the wide receivers are going to be. They're going to be fast, they're going to be shifty, they're going to catch crazy over the top balls. They're going to be great. Defensively is a question mark for me. Not in the sense of talent, it's more so Kalen DeBoer's defense got diced against Michigan and then got diced against Texas in a shootout. So what happens there? I'm really, really interested to see what year one in the DeBoer era really looks like as Alabama, who has all these Saban guys, now have to play for a new coach. And I wonder how that dynamic's gonna be because Saban was so rigid.
Mm-hmm.
So rigid.
Yep.
And I know every coach is rigid, but like Saban was.
He's top notch, world class.
Like, so I'm interested to see. And now you have Nick Saban on the media side. Like,
Mm-hmm. He's
if,
gonna be looking
if
down on that program.
he's going to talk like it's his program. It is his program. So if
Right.
Kalen DeBoer is not doing something right, Nick Saban's the first guy who's the voice of God in the state of Alabama. And you're going to get if you get crucified by Nick Saban, you're fired in year 2. I hate to say it, you're not making it to a third year. But I think like tell me if I'm wrong, but I think this Alabama schedule is it has breathability, but it's not comfortable. You're not comfortable with this schedule.
A couple things. I'll touch on the schedule first. Um, that Wisconsin game is important, man. It is so important. I mean, traveling to Wisconsin, it's your first real test, and it's your only test before you go and you play Georgia. Though it's in Tuscaloosa, right? But going to Madison is no easy feat. They do have some luck. I don't know how they swung that to be a day game. Beyond me, right?
Television.
Oh, it's got to be bigger than television. I guess not. Television literally rules the world and sucks.
I was gonna say if
Um,
Fox wanted that game.
is it? Oh, I guess. Oh, it is going to be
Big
a big
noon. Big
kickoff.
noon.
Ugh, bastards. Um, but it is going to be the most important game before Georgia. It'll actually put Alabama to the test. It's going to test some people more so than Western Kentucky and South Florida is. But what really sticks out to me, I don't even think Georgia's their biggest game. It's going to be their most difficult, but I don't think it's going to be like their biggest game of the year. Um, there are 3 games on here, Jacob. Actually, 4 if you include Wisconsin, that really scare me for Kalen DeBoer. And it's at Tennessee, at LSU, and at Oklahoma, right? And then you add on at Wisconsin, but depending on where Wisconsin is. I mean, you're talking about most notably probably night games, right? Um, Oklahoma's gonna have a fast offense, right? High flying, they're fast, and they play the long ball. Um, LSU, Alabama is always a classic, and Tennessee has been coming for Alabama's throat the last couple of years. So, and they have good prospects that they're waiting to show up for this year. Um, so those 3 games really stick out. I think the LSU game is going to end up being the most important game because we're going to get into Georgia next. But given the schedule, I'm going to say it's a loss to Alabama or a loss to Georgia, right? And then barring that they make it through um, Tennessee, I mean that LSU game is going to be their make or break for being at the top of the SEC. In which again we're talking about Mizzou having a really good record, and a rather good chance to be at the top, we'll call it. And you've got Texas, which we're also going to talk about, but they've got a gauntlet of a schedule too, but we're predicting them to be at the top of their conference as well. So just a couple food for thought. You know, Alabama also lost Caleb Downs, their premier safety in the offseason, and then they also lost Seth McLaughlin. And depending on who you ask, that could be a win or a loss. Nobody had any problem with him before the Michigan game, but you know, you're only as good as your last game you played, and it wasn't very good. Um, so what those experienced and key pieces to one on the offense, one on the defense, how do you replenish? And then, like you said, the development of Jalen Milroe, where is that at? Can you make the passes to your weapons?
I don't think
And
he can make the passes. It's more like, can he take the next step of dicing, dicing up the secondaries, making it frustrating because like he showed it in the beginning of the part of last year. He sucked. He was not good. Then he developed, started reading. He was killing people. Can he take the next step in the passing game? Not so much can he hit his targets, it's can you look off defenders? Can you hit the guy in a tight seam? Like, I think that's more of what I think we're looking for, opposed to like making the first read or the check down. I think he's gonna be very similar to Penix, just he's gonna be more mobile.
possibly, we're
Well,
gonna have to see.
let's jump into Georgia here, and then we'll kind of just touch on Oklahoma, Texas lightly, and then we'll
Mhm.
talk about some quick little not quick little one hitters for the dealers out there, and then we'll wrap this thing up on a
There we go.
bow, nice and tight. Sits.
Mm-hmm.
So let's
So,
talk about Georgia here real quick.
well,
Obviously, they got you know a down year last year in terms of missing the SEC champion, losing in the SEC championship game, and obviously, missing out on the CFP as a whole. Um,
you a bitch.
I know. Anyways, let's jump into the schedule here. Clemson comes to them, and actually, Clemson's a neutral site game. Get a cupcake, go to Kentucky, go to Bama. You get Auburn, Mississippi State, got to go to Texas, Florida, in Jacksonville, at Ole Miss. Last three games are at home. Tennessee, UMass, Georgia Tech. I mean,
It's
the schedule's front half, and that's where you got to make your money. All right, I think Ole Miss and Tennessee are going to be big games down the line, depending on which one of the two end up being better. I think we expect a big year out of Ole Miss, given the return of Jackson Dart and Lane Kiffin. But I'm looking at the front half of the schedule as like that's where you gotta get that's where the butter is made.
I don't know if you see the same thing I'm thinking, but they got Texas, Florida, Georgia. Excuse me,
Texas,
Texas, Florida,
Florida.
Ole Miss, Tennessee in 4 straight weeks.
That's
There,
tough.
buddy boy.
Tough.
I mean, I'm not saying Florida's going to have a chance, but even if you just look over Florida,
Historically, they don't have a chance.
I'm pretty sure Florida leads that series.
Yeah, not in the last 5 years they don't.
That's fair. Um, but I think that's where all the money's made, to be honest with you. I
Those
mean,
four games. Well, I'm looking at it like you get because like I look at it as Clemson, two road games, right? Kentucky, Alabama, and then like, you know, the biggest thing is if you beat Alabama, like your season's basically set, even if you have another loss. Because you beat a top five Alabama team.
I mean, I understand where you're coming from. Uh, it really depends on where that Alabama team is, how that Alabama team is going to be. I mean, Clemson may surprise people. I don't necessarily expect them to, but they could. I'm still thinking that 4 week stretch, man. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but going to Texas, they got to go to Ole Miss, and then they cap off that monstrosity of a couple weeks there, and then they got to play Tennessee. I'm not saying that they're not going to beat them. I'm just saying it's a gauntlet of a schedule. And I think Georgia's biggest game is going to be Texas. I think it's going to be another couple games, right? When Georgia plays Texas, like Alabama and Texas were the last 2 years, right? Very
I,
close.
I will
And with
say,
all the problems, let's talk about the problems that Georgia has had lately. Who even is going
oh,
to be on their team?
dude, I don't know, man. I just like Kirby Smart's got to like, I don't know what the heck's gone on at Georgia in the last 2.5 months, 3 months, but besides the driving incidents, like, you know, I think like I don't want to touch upon the driving incidents too much. I think the jokes write themselves. You know, I don't want to move too fast on them. They're not, you know, don't want to get sent away, but yeah, you know, I think Georgia and offensively, I think it's a good question mark because you lost Brock Bowers to generational tight end. You gained Travis Etienne in the run game, which is going to help keep your balance. But Carson Beck didn't really show his best stuff. Granted, he didn't have the best Receivers, but he had Lad McConkney,
Mm-hmm.
who was a second round pick.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested to see what Carson Beck's development is after another full year in the offense in the offseason, right? Um, I'm just really interested in seeing what that ends up turning out to be, right? I think Georgia right now is a little bit like Mad Max. It's like the wasteland. It's the wild, wild east. Like it's they kind of just do their own thing. You don't really know because Kirby goes crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And like Kirby is like a more unhinged version of Nick Saban at this rate. So
Right.
I'm really interested to see. what Georgia does. But yeah, I think to me, I think Georgia's defensively, they're just a top five defensive monster again, and I think that's going to win them a ton of games. So,
Yeah.
um,
I think going through all these schedules, and trying to pick up who's going to win, who's going to be at the top. I mean, they got rid of divisions just like everybody else did this year too. So like, you're really playing for the record, and being at the top there. So,
let's
saying
go
that
ahead. Oh, my bad. I jumped the gun on you.
jump the gun. um, saying that Georgia can't lose a couple of these games, or like maybe lose this game to, I don't know, Tennessee. I don't know if Texas started in the East or the West before
Doesn't
they
matter.
cut them out, but it doesn't
Doesn't
matter.
matter.
But Texas has, or Georgia has to win these games, so it'll be interesting. I don't my schedule, my win picks, my winners and losers, Jacob. I'm struggling over here.
DJ, let's talk about the last two teams. Obviously, we're going to touch upon a quick one hitters for the dealers out there. Let's talk about the two new teams here in Texas and Oklahoma.
Okay.
Texas, Steve Sarkisian, former Nick Saban assistant, right? Quinn Ewers, the whole 9 yards. I believe they have a running back that's also really good. I can't remember his name. Obviously, they lost a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball. They lost Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell, and Jonathan Brooks.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a huge loss for them. Um, Again, I think the schedule to them unbelievably favorable, right? The only like you got to go to Michigan, but then you get UTSA, Louisiana Monroe, and Mississippi State all at home. You obviously have the Red River rivalry, right? And Dallas. Then you get Georgia at home, right? You get Florida at home. You get Kentucky at home, right? And then, like, obviously, Arkansas is going to be a rivalry game because they used to play each other in the 60s, and the Arkansas fans have been waiting a long time for this. So, like, that's not an easy road test in terms of the atmosphere that Arkansas is going to have, but the team itself will be easy. All right. Does that make sense? The atmosphere is going to be rocking in Fayetteville.
I'm just saying, a new
Kyle
win
Field
in.
in the last game of the season is going to be packed.
Oh,
Tickets
you're
right
talking
now.
about Texas A&M. I thought you said Arkansas. I'm sorry.
No, both. I'm talking about both. Both games are going to have high energy because those are
Arkansas at noon is like Alabama playing
no, but it's
Wisconsin and
you
Madison, and
don't you don't understand the historical aspect. Like A&M and Arkansas have been wanting to schedule Texas, but Texas won't schedule them.
I get the Texas A&M one. I get that one.
Well, no, A&M doesn't want to schedule Texas. It's the other way around there.
Well, regardless, I get the
Either
Texas
way,
Texas
either
A&M game,
way, like Texas really isn't road tested until Michigan, and that's the second game of the year.
and there
So
I
like,
think they're going to win that.
so like, Texas and Quinn Ewers, this is an easily, could be a Quinn Ewers Heisman year, right? Archie Manning's coming in and after Quinn. So, we'll see some Archie this year because they'll blow some teams out. But I think Texas is in another great spot to make the CFP. I mean, hey man, there's a good chance. We'll talk. I'll save it for hot takes. I'll save it for hot takes.
Ah,
Tease them.
I mean, you pretty much wrote it, Jacob. I mean, a very favorable schedule. I think Michigan and everything that's now finally starting to come down on them, which we're probably gonna have to get to in another podcast, or we are gonna have to get to in another podcast. Um, is finally coming down. I don't think Michigan's gonna be all that this year.
No,
Um, so I mean, you're looking at your contest being Georgia and Oklahoma, and then uh, Texas A&M at the end of the year. I don't think Arkansas is going to be any contest to them. I don't think Kentucky's going to be anything to them. Mississippi State's not. Um, so very good chance that they could be at the top of the SEC at the end of the year. So I'll just leave it at that, and we can move on to Oklahoma, which is
OU.
the
Last one before we go into the takes for the dealers. The dealers.
yes, sir. And their schedule, it's a
Oh,
little
this
bit more
schedule.
brutal. Even out of conference play, they, Houston and Tulane, they are not teams really to mess around with.
Tulane's a trap game.
Hmm.
Tulane's a trap game. Calling it right now.
Um, the only, I mean, then you've got Tennessee go to Auburn. Then you've got the Red River rivalry, and then South Carolina, Ole Miss at Ole Miss. And then you got your Molly Wop in Maine, and then at Missouri. Then you go to, or I'm sorry, you host Alabama, and then you go to LSU for the last game of the year. Which I'm sorry, but they're losing. They're losing that game. It's going to be a late night game. I know it. Are they trying to spark a rivalry with this? Jacob, do we know? Do we have any insider information on that?
With what?
If they're trying to spark a rivalry between Oklahoma and LSU,
I would assume
isn't that supposed to be the Egg Bowl? No, that's Mississippi State and Ole Miss. Isn't
no,
it
but
supposed to be Ole Miss LSU?
the rivalry is Oklahoma Missouri. That's the other rivalry besides Texas that was like
I was
OU.
asking Oklahoma LSU because that's on a rivalry weekend.
No, I think unless it was already established, like they're
Because
not gonna play. They're not gonna play that every year.
LSU normally plays A&M, and
Yeah, I just think it's just the way it falls. I think it's just the way the pods are
mm,
because then you're gonna get I don't know. I don't know to be honest with you. We'll find out I guess in next year when those schedules come out, but yeah, I think Oklahoma, I think you lose Dylan Gabriel. That's a huge loss at quarterback. I'm really concerned about Brett Venables. I'm not quite sure he has that offense ready to go. I'm not quite sure he has that defense ready to go for SEC ball. I think Oklahoma's going to be one of these teams where we're like, oh, we think they're going to be a top SEC team. I think you're looking at them in the middle. I think you're looking at 3 to 4 losses for this Oklahoma Sooners team, right, in conference play,
I
personally.
think I think you can almost go between 6 and 4 losses, or
Yeah,
4 to 6
I
losses.
mean,
I think they're going to act just like they're in the Big 12. Those teams in the middle of the line of the SEC, though better than your more top of the line Big 12 teams of years past. I think those are the teams that are going to get caught off guard. I think they could put up a lot of points against Tennessee. I think they could put up a lot of points against Auburn. I think if
my
caught
concern,
sleeping, they could put up a lot of points against Missouri.
my biggest thing is those last 3 weeks is the toughest 3 weeks of anybody's schedule. And like on a best case scenario, you maybe go like,
1 and 2.
yeah, I was thinking 1 and 2. Like you're not, that's a lot to ask of your program that's not elite to play those 3 teams. Because one of those, like, plus two of them are on the road.
Yep.
So the Mizzou's already sold out. LSU is going to be a tough one. And then Bama loves road games. So your best case is that you beat Mizzou and we'll see how the cookies crumble, or you beat LSU or you beat Bama. But I don't see them winning those 3 games like like you don't go 3-0. So
No,
you get
I got one more team we should scan over real quick, Jacob. Just because I think they deserve a little bit more respect than they've been getting in the last couple of years, and that's going to be Ole Miss. In Lane Kiffin's squad over there. I know we wanted to wrap up on that last team, but I think they deserve the talking to in this and a little bit more in depth because you want to talk about a team that has a lot to prove, that has bringing a lot back. The recruiting's been on fire, and they don't have the worst schedule. It's not the best one, but they don't have the worst schedule, right?
I'll tell you right
You're
now, it's out of all the power teams, this is the most favorable schedule I've seen. Because
arguably, your two big ones, big ones being LSU and Georgia. I think you can clean up a loss to LSU from last year. I really think, and then you just got to worry about Georgia, who also has enough to worry about, and you get to host them. Um, Lane Kiffin has fallen apart in big games, and that's what scares me about him and his job security. Not that I think he's going anywhere. It just it just scares me what they're what he's almost a James Franklin of sorts who wins his bowl games, right? Um, that's the rapid comparison that I have in my head. But I think this team has done stellar the last couple years. A big win against Penn State this past year as well in the Peach Bowl. Um, and I think they can clean up a couple of these. Excuse me, they did not lose to LSU last year. They did beat LSU 49-55. But they avoid Alabama this year, which is big, and that was 2 years ago. So I think you clean up against Georgia if you make that game competitive. Unlike last year, I think they could easily go um, 11-1. I mean, they were 11-2 last year.
Dude, are we just miscounting? Is it 13 weeks in the college football season? Like,
No,
is
it's
it?
12. I'm sorry, I counted their bowl win.
Oh, I
No,
think
they
for
went
I
10
think
and 2.
I think for Ole Miss, it's what does Jackson Dart become? Right, this is his
Yeah,
I think third year in the system. I think right.
I
He's
think so.
like this is it for him.
Mm-hmm.
Right. At this rate, if you're a quarterback in the third year of a system, like you saw the leaps that Brady Cook took in his second year as a starter with Missouri,
Oh yeah.
how are you not going to take those same leaps as the third year starter at Ole Miss? Right? When you
Mm-hmm.
compare it like that, then it makes your logic of quarterback play a little bit more what's going on? What's wrong over there at Ole Miss? Where's the development? Where's the issue?
Mm-hmm.
Um, the talent's there. Jackson Darts has the arm, he has the mobility, he has what it takes. It's a question of like, can Lane Kiffin survive the big games? Like you said, can he hang in? Can he have the big moment? Can the defense come up with the big stop and then can the offense have the dagger?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested to see of that, and I agree with you. I think their schedule is completely favorable, and all things go considered, we're going to see him in the CFP.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think the loss of the running back Judkins is going to play a big role too, because he left for
he
virtually no
went
reason.
and he went to Ohio State.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So,
Let's talk. Let's go. Let's do some quick hitters here, DJ.
all right, you throw him at me.
I'll
Now,
throw them at you. All right, give me your hottest take for the SEC.
holy gone. The hottest one that I have.
Like one that's gonna make our listeners have to come at you in the comments, respectfully, of course. A
Oh,
little, a little. What are you thinking, bro?
oh. Okay. Wow. Hold on. Let me take a quick look at this real quick just before I say it. um,
Put you on the spot.
Texas and Missouri are 1-2 at the top of the SEC.
Wow, I love it though. I love it.
The only arguable one I have replacing, and that might be even hotter than the original one. It could be Ole Miss in Missouri at the top.
Yeah,
I have Missouri as a lock in the SEC championship game.
I love that. I think that is your hot take right there.
I think that's it. I love the schedule. Their development of the team came out of nowhere last year. I
So
think
good.
as far
And it
as
got
somebody
better, and it
who
got better. Everybody returned. We didn't lose anybody.
that's what I'm saying. You guys are bringing
The
back
only the only guy we
everybody,
lost was Cody Schrader, and he graduated.
and that's what I'm trying to say, Jacob. I get you're excited. Let me have my take. But I have them at the top of the SEC. Um, no fewer than three. I really don't. I don't really see three teams being better than them as far as schedule goes and their record at the end of the year. Um, and with the harder schedule some of these other top teams that we said face, I think they're really favorable to be there. That's it. That's my hot take.
Yeah, DJ. I think my hot take is going to be I think only I think only four teams from the SEC make the CFP.
I still think
Cur-
that's a lot.
Currently, in the top 12 of the coaches poll, there's 6 SEC teams.
Okay. And
I think
who are those six?
it's LS. The 6 are LSU, Texas, Oklahoma. No, LSU, Missouri, Ole Miss, Alabama, Texas, and Georgia.
Uh, is it the top 12? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're right.
I think only 4 make it. I mean, easily 7 or 8 could make it if you really think
Yeah,
about it.
I don't think that's I really don't think that's super hot of a take. I personally, I mean, you got to think some of these teams are going to funnel up, regardless. So like it's right. Five people get a buy. No, four get a buy.
Well, yeah, like I
Five get a
just like
lock.
I don't know. I don't know what to me, I think like to me in the SEC, like personally, I I don't want to say this because I do like this team a lot, but like I could see Tennessee going like 7-5 this year, 6-6.
But they're not even in the top 12. Give me your top 12. I mean, you got to think LSU is probably going to drop. I've got them dropping. You got to think
Well,
seven other teams going to get in, right? One
well, here's
SEC
my
team is
logic.
guaranteed.
My logic as of right now is that the Big Ten is going to get boosted
Yeah,
because of how many teams are in there. So like you're like I'm thinking that in the top 12, personally, I can see, I really want to save this for another episode, so I don't want to give away my top 12. But I can see personally, I can see 6 Big Ten teams in there.
you're wild. No,
And then, well, hold on. No, I could see 5, 4, and then it's like one Big 12, one ACC, and then the group of 4, the group of 5.
right. So you've got five teams that are locked, one guaranteed SEC. You've got seven other spots to fill, right?
And I think those 7 other spots are filled by Big Ten or SEC.
I think four of those spots are filled by Big Ten and SEC. Two from Big Ten, two from SEC.
No.
I
I
think
think I think at a minimum 4 SEC teams make it at a
yeah,
minimum.
no, for sure. Oh, I guess I was by that logic, I was saying that three of them made it. And
Personally, like if I had to go with a hot take, like the hot take is that Tennessee like goes 7-5 and Heupel's on the hot seat.
I pull on the hot seat.
Because like you got to think about it like this: you lose to Oklahoma, let's say you lose to Bama, and let's say you lose to Georgia. Those are 3 losses right there. And then let's just say things really go south. Let's say you lose to Kentucky, and then let's say you don't get it done against Florida again. That's 5 losses. Or NC State could give you trouble. Grayson McCall's the quarterback. Like that to me is like Tennessee. Like Joe Milton was supposed to be the guy. Well, everyone hated Joe Milton at Tennessee. So now it's Nico, whatever his name is. Like, I can't pronounce his last name. It's not that I don't know it, it's I don't know how to say it.
That's true.
But like everybody wants him now. What if
Mhm.
Heupel's not the guy? Right? I guess the hot take is that Heupel gets on the hot seat because he leads Tennessee to 7-5, and that's just not acceptable in Knoxville. When 2 years ago they were a CFP candidate with Hendon Hooker.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely failed to reach some of the expectation there.
Because like I'm not
Um,
gonna sit here and be like the hot take is gonna be Billy Napier gets fired. Like the
I
hot
mean,
take could potentially be that Florida goes 1-11. Say everything goes to crap.
they could.
Could. Um yeah, like right now NC State's number 22 in the coaches poll. So like you're looking at potentially 5 losses. You have the 3, maybe you have the 2 to Alabama and Georgia. You have the toss up with Oklahoma, and then you have a rogue one. You have 2 rogue ones in play
Mm,
between Kentucky, Florida, and NC State. Auburn could cause some fits. Like I think that to me is like I think that's I think the SEC will, in my head, play out exactly how it's going to. I think the top team.
Golly, aren't you a wizard?
I think the SEC championship game is going to be Texas and Texas and Alabama. I think Georgia's schedule doesn't favor them that well, and I also think Alabama's going to beat them.
Oh,
I think Jalen Milroe is a much better quarterback than Carson Beck. Much better. I
much better.
I think
Oh,
Carson. I like hot take. I don't think Carson Beck's that good. I think he's a glorified Stetson Bennett, and I think Stetson Bennett was better.
holy God! Just start clipping out the shotgun.
Uh,
Goodness gracious,
I
that
don't
that
really.
thing's on spray.
When you like, I just like my buddy
Sawed
Hunt.
off on that
My
that
buddy
thing.
Hunter's gonna get mad at me. He's gonna be like, "You don't know ball. You don't know what you're watching." And I'm be like, "Well, dude, watch him not get drafted. Or if he does get drafted, he's not gonna do well. He has the arm. He just can't like." The thing about Stetson Bennett is that like he had swagger. He could kill you. He knew when to throw the dagger. Like he knew when to make the right plays. Like Carson Beck had the biggest moments and crumbled. Now, granted, this season could change that for me when I watch him, but as of right now, like based on pure quarterback play, he could be easily, if if the quarterbacks develop the way they're developing, he could be the fifth best quarterback in the SEC.
Um,
You're looking at Ewers, Milroe, Cook, and Dart.
I disagree. I mean, it was a 24-27 game last year between Alabama. I mean, I know the score doesn't tell all the details, but 21 to 29 for 243 yards, really isn't bad. Um,
Listen,
especially for
man,
the first season of play, and Georgia had the easiest schedule known to man last year, if you don't remember. Um, so
like I said, the first game will tell it all for me, but I don't know. I'm not super impressed with Carson Beck. I could be the odd man out. I think
you
I am the odd man out, but
I don't think he's all that in a bag of chips, but like toss him some chips there, Jacob.
I did. I said he's the fifth.
Ugh, goodness gracious.
I
I
said
think
I
Alabama.
said if they develop the way they're supposed to develop, and he doesn't, he could be the fifth best quarterback.
I think Alabama loses 3 games.
Yeah, I like that. DJ, talk to me about which team, on the other side of the spectrum. We talk about a team that's good, surprising. Talk to me to a team that's going to be disappointing, that we are not expecting to be disappointing. I think I
Oh,
kind of gave mine away with Tennessee, but I have another team to talk about too.
um, see where it gets tricky. I mean, I just said Alabama. Uh, I don't know that I want to lock in there. At this very second, I don't know what we're expecting Texas A&M to do. Um, they have a decent schedule. Oh, not they've got a pretty difficult schedule. They open up against Notre Dame. I didn't know that. How about that? Um, but just for the sake of it, I am gonna say expecting to be good, and then is gonna disappoint. Is that what you asked me?
Yep.
I'm going to lock in and say Alabama. I mean,
Ooh.
to say that I think they're going to disappoint. And I think that's the key word, disappoint. I think Alabama fans are like they're bracing for that impact of a new coach and leaving the Saban era, but the DeBoer reality is going to hit. The Saban absence is going to hit. So, um, they have a real possibility to lose 4 games. I think on this schedule. I think actually they have a real possibility to lose 5, but I don't expect them to lose 5. I think they lose 3 games. Either Georgia, I can see them losing. LSU, I can see them losing. I can even see them losing to Tennessee or Missouri. Um, for that matter, or being a key word there. Um, so I think there's I think it's going to be a rough fall for Alabama fans. Um, but who knows? I mean, Kalen DeBoer, if he picks up where he left off at Washington, I mean, tough loss in the Natty, but if he can put some things together, I think he's got a real opportunity um, to do well. But he's got just as good an opportunity to put a hole in his ship.
I mentioned Tennessee could potentially go 7-5. Another team that I think,
Let me see if I can get your guess.
all right,
LSU.
yep.
Ooh, I'm good.
I think LSU could be just, I think, in the same boat. Like, let me
LSU
read.
could be a real stinker.
Listen, here are the five games that I have currently as losses or toss ups. USC in a neutral site.
Where is that neutral site?
I don't know.
Okay, I can't find it either.
Ole Miss, A&M, Bama, and Oklahoma. Five toss ups slash losses for LSU. You and here's the thing: you get UCLA at home,
They
like
played two Big Ten teams,
then you got to go, and then I also have to go to Florida, like, and let's say Florida steals a game, which they can totally do because they can do that.
and it's a good rivalry
It's a
game.
good rivalry game, right? So it to me, it's one of those things where it's like you don't have Jaden Daniels, you have no Malik Neighbors, right? Defensively, you're not, I don't think, the same. What does Brian Kelly now have? Right? I don't know who their starting quarterback is for the year, unfortunately. I wish I knew that
Garrett
off top.
Nussmeier.
Ooh,
Garrett Nussmeier.
exactly my point. Was he a transfer? Did he come in from somewhere or was he recruited?
I believe he was in the.
Was he backup? Is he the
Mm-hmm.
backup? Listen,
Yep.
so to me, you you lost a Heisman winning quarterback and you weren't even that good with a Heisman winning quarterback. And then Malik Neighbors is gone, who's a generational wide receiver, which you produce like LSU just produces them, but
He's two first round wide receivers, right?
no, it's just one. He just won. It was just Neighbors from LSU.
I thought there was another one.
No. Um, so yeah, I think LSU could be a very disappointing team if let's just say some things don't go right. College football's crazy, man. College football's crazy. Um, yeah, I think we both kind of mentioned our title game and who we think's coming out of it, so I don't think we need to say it. Give me, and well, this will be our last thing, and then we'll wrap this show up completely. Most outstanding player in the conference.
Ooh. Um, I mean, I think it's all going to come down to some sort of bias. Um, it's going to have to be a quarterback from a team that I think is going to be at the top. Um, and the two names that stick out to me first are going to be it could be any of it could really be the quarterback. Any of the three teams that I mentioned could be in the SEC championship game. It could be Brady Cook. If Mizzou could get to the SEC title game, it is going to be Brady Cook. Um, it could be Jackson Dart if he pulls Ole Miss out there, and I think the most obvious one, even if they don't make the SEC championship game but have a really good season nonetheless, is going to be Quinn Ewers. I think he's the most. He's probably the betting odds to do it. If not second to
I think it's
what's his
between
name?
I think it's between him and Milrow.
Oh, I thought it was between him and what's his name in Georgia. I mean, people are riding on high on him, dog. I mean,
I
regardless
think
of
George
opinion,
I think George is being heavily carried by defense right now, but
I'm not looking at it as a reporter. I'm just looking at Vegas, baby. Um, I don't think he's going to be up there. Carson Beck, that's his name.
yeah,
Uh, I'm just saying
yeah,
that's who I
true.
think is at the top, like at Vegas odds. I don't think he should be there or is going to be there. I just think he is in competition right now with Vegas to
Yeah.
do. But um,
I think,
yeah.
yeah, I think for me, the B, I do think I'm in the same boat as you. I think Quinn Ewers ends up winning it.
Hmm.
Um, or Jalen Milrow. I want to have an unorthodox pick, and this is 100% biased. Luther Burden,
He the running back for Mizzou,
wide receiver.
wide receiver.
I think he could have a monster season. If he does what he does and Mizzou does what they're supposed to do or being predicted to do, he could be a Devontae Smith level guy. That type of season is what we're thinking. Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. So, um, DJ, that was kind of the SEC. We talked a lot. But it's the
Did.
but it's the best conference. Any team can really come out of nowhere and win it. Some
Hmm.
teams have new coaches, like A&M has Elko from Duke. We kind of lightly touch on A&M, could be a beast, right?
Hmm.
So, with that being said, DJ, any last parting thoughts for the dealers?
I think Auburn is going to take a step up this year. I think I don't think that they're gonna, I think 8-4 is a legitimate goal for them, and I think that would be a big win for Auburn as they're coming off a few a few tough ones, especially with a tough loss to Alabama last year to end the season, and a tough loss to Maryland in their bowl game in the Music City Bowl. But with the schedule looking ahead and the recruits that they've kind of picked up, um, I think they pick up next year. That was my quick little. We didn't get into Auburn type of little quick hitter.
My last little parting thought, Sam Pittman's fired out of Arkansas after this year. Um, this has been the deal with D and J. I've been your wonderful host, Jacob Pearl, part of the dynamic duo alongside me with DJ McCatherine. Like, comment, share, subscribe. See you next time.